Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode on this series of building a mutual fund portfolio. As I mentioned in the previous episode as well, the purpose behind this series is to ensure that you understand what a mutual fund is, what are the different types of mutual funds, how to redeem it, how to monitor it, how to purchase it, etc. and ensure that you understand different aspects of this. However, if you are a first time investor or if you have not seen one investment cycle, that is 5 to 8 years of being invested, I would suggest that you still use a financial advisor before you start investing. In this episode, I'm going to talk about a few concepts which are common for all mutual funds, and the concepts which I'm going to talk about are 1. Riskometer, 2. Scheme classification by maturity period, 3. Net asset value, 4. Benchmark, and 5. Compound annual growth rate. Before that, a quick summary on what we learned in the last episode. We learned that the mutual fund is formed when capital collected from different investors is invested in company shares, stocks or bonds. So different investors come together, they contribute capital which is used for a common purpose. That is investment in shares or stocks, bonds, etc. We know that every mutual fund has a clearly stated objective, so the investor knows what they're getting into. It is professionally managed, headed by a fund manager and a large team under him. They make money by charging fees to the investors, and it is extremely well regulated by the SEBI. Moving to the first concept, riskometer. Now, when you take any fund document, you will see a picture like this, and if you look closely at the picture, it's titled as a riskometer, and it has 5 levels of risk which move from low to high. That is low, moderately low, moderate, moderately high, and high. Right? So now this example I've taken is the SBI focused equity fund. Now easily you can make out what is the risk level of this fund. So it falls on the moderately high segment. So should an investor with a low risk profile take into this? No, they shouldn't, right? So the riskometer is nothing but a pictorial depiction of the risk profile of a mutual fund scheme. It shows you what is the level of risk associated with the principal amount. So if you're putting in some money into this fund, you'll be able to understand whether your principal is at low risk, high risk, moderate risk, etc. Okay, and SEBI has mandated that every fund document should carry this riskometer showing what is the level of risk, so that an investor can easily assess this. So first you have to judge your own risk profile. So if you're a first time investor, a new investor, then you should go for a low or moderately low risk fund until you are very sure that you can stomach high risk. Now, once you've judged your own risk profile, then you know that which kind of fund you can invest in. So if you're a very high risk taker, you know that you are willing to lose capital also for significantly high returns, and you can go for the high risk funds also. But if you're a moderate risk taker, then stick to a moderate risk fund. So this is how you judge your own risk profile, and you judge which fund to go with, right? And as I mentioned, any new investor or an investor who's gradually investing and getting used to the market can move up this curve. So the other way to look at it is that if you're a low risk investor, then you can go with something called liquid funds, which are very low risk. I would rate it slightly riskier than an FD, that's all. If you're a moderately low risk taker, then you can stick to again debt funds, short duration funds, ultra short duration funds. So there is a small amount of risk, but you have better returns than a liquid fund. A moderate risk taker can look at fixed maturity plans. Moderately high risk taker can move into the equity fund. So, but even there you can look at large cap funds or balanced funds, or maximum a mid cap fund. And if you're a high risk taker, then you can look at small cap or sectoral funds. But remember that with each level of risk going up, there is a risk to losing the capital you have invested. But in return, in the long term, you'll definitely get a higher return. The next concept we will take up is scheme classification by maturity period. Let me explain this in relation to a fixed deposit, because all of us have fixed deposits and we understand quite well how that works. So the features of fixed deposits versus there are two types of mutual funds when you classify it by maturity period. One is called an open-ended mutual fund, the other one is called a close-ended mutual fund. How do these work? So fixed deposit, has a maturity period. When you have a certain amount of money which you're going to invest in fixed deposits, you're asked to choose a time period and you're given a rate of interest in accordance with that. So it can start with as low as 7 days and go up to 5 years or more, right? And there's a bracket like 7 to 45 days, 1 year to 2 years, etc. In an open-ended mutual fund, this maturity period is not applicable. Once you put in your money, you can exit within the same day. You can stay for a year or even for your lifetime. Nobody is going to ask you to exit. A close-ended mutual fund scheme works just like a fixed deposit, but it is fixed deposits you can open at any point of time. A close-ended mutual fund, there is a subscription period, that is, it is open only for a brief period of time. During that time you have to invest in it, then the fund gets closed and then your funds are released at the time of maturity. Is there a capital guarantee for fixed deposits? Yes, up to 5 lakhs within for one person within a bank, there is up to 5 lakhs is guaranteed. Over and above that is not guaranteed. In an open-ended mutual fund and a close-ended mutual fund, the capital is not guaranteed. You run a risk of erosion of capital. The next feature is a type of return that you get. In a fixed deposit, you earn a rate of interest. So you put in your money and the bank says that I will give you a rate of interest according to which you will earn money. In a mutual fund, you do not earn interest on it. It works just like your property or gold. There is an appreciation or depreciation in investment value. Meaning if you put 10,000 rupees, that could go up to 12,000. So you earn an appreciation on your investment. Right? Same for close-ended mutual fund. After the maturity period, you will be told the amount that it has appreciated and you will be paid out that amount. The ease of creation is high across all these, across a fixed deposit or an open-ended mutual fund or a close-ended mutual fund. In a fixed deposit, what do? You either log into your account and easily create it, or you visit a branch and you can create one immediately. Both cases, provided you have the funds. It's the same for the mutual fund also. You can go online and create your investment, or you can walk into the branch or the investor service center and they will take the check or the payment from you and they will create it for you. It is very easy to open it. Even the close-ended mutual fund can be subscribed online when the subscription period is open. Liquidity, it's high for a fixed deposit. Again, you can redeem it with a few clicks. And the money gets credited back into your account, or you can go to your branch and you can place a request and it's credited back within 1 day. An open-ended mutual fund works just like that. You can redeem it at any point of time. Again, online it can be done, or you can walk into the nearest branch. Depending on the type of fund, it is credited back into your account by the next day or within 3 to 4 days. A close-ended mutual fund, however, does not have high liquidity. There are two ways you can typically redeem a close-ended mutual fund if you're not waiting for the maturity period to get over. One is that some funds allow you to sell those units on the stock exchange. However, you will have to find a buyer for it. The other funds give an option of selling back the units to the fund at a periodic time. They'll announce that now the fund is open for buyback, and they will buy it back from you at the NAV which is declared then. So overall, I would suggest that a close-ended mutual fund is not suitable for new investors, but if you're a new investor, definitely you can go with an open-ended mutual fund. It is quite convenient and transparent for you to go ahead with. Now let's look at the net asset value, or for short as it's called, the NAV. Let's compare it with the gold buying process. You go to buy gold, what do? First you decide on the amount that you want to invest. So let's take the investment amount as 40,000 and you know that 1 gram of gold is 4,000, so you get 10 grams of gold. Now when you go to buy a mutual fund, you know that a mutual fund buys shares. So when you invest in a mutual fund, do they give you these shares? Like if they bought into Reliance or Airtel, will they give you shares of Airtel? Or no, they don't do that. A mutual fund issues units. When you invest in a mutual fund, again you decide what is the amount that you're going to invest. Now each mutual fund unit has a price which is called the NAV, basis which you will be allotted a number of units. So if you decide to invest 10,000 rupees and the NAV of the unit is 400, then you get that 10,000 rupees divided by NAV of 400, so you get 25 units. You see the similarity with gold. You went with 40,000, per gram is 4,000, you get 10 grams. You go with 10,000 rupees to the mutual fund, they tell you the NAV is 400, you get 25 units. The net asset value is defined as the market value of a mutual fund unit. If you add up the market value of all the securities in the fund and divide it by the total mutual fund units, the resulting figure will be the NAV. That is, a fund buys multiple types of securities in crores of amounts, right? And they issue large number of units. So what is the value of all those securities put together divided by the number of units will give you the NAV of each unit. Let's look at an example to understand this better, as it's a slightly complex concept. Okay, here I've taken a fund, an example of a fund which has 4 companies in its portfolio, A, B, C, D, and it has 5 shares of each. So when on the day the investor went to invest in this fund, each of these shares, say for example, it was 1,000 rupees. So it had a total value of 5,000 rupees for the company A shares, 5,000 for company B, C and D, right? So the total value of the fund was 20,000 rupees. And the number of units the mutual fund has issued is 1,000. So now the total value divided by the number of units, 20,000 by 1,000, you get the NAV as 2,000 rupees. So when you went with 10,000 rupees to invest, they told you that you will get 5 units, because for every unit you want to purchase, it is 2,000 rupees NAV and you have 10,000, so you will get 5 units. Another investor went on another day with 10,000 rupees again, but on that day the share market had gone up, so the prices had moved up. So now the fund value moved to 70,000 rupees because each of these company shares have gone up. So now the fund value is 70,000, the total value. The number of units is 1,000. So per unit, the net asset value NAV became 7,000, 70,000 by 1,000. So now when the investor went with 10,000 rupees, he was said that he would get only 1.42 units, because now the price of the NAV of the fund has gone up. So you will get lesser number of units. When the market is down, you get more units. You can look at it here. See, the total value has gone down to 15,000. The number of units issued is 1,000. So it is now the NAV per unit is 1,500. Therefore, for the same 10,000 rupees, you will get 6.66 units. And this is why fund managers or financial advisors say that you can invest when the market is down, because you get more number of units. So when the price goes up per unit, you will make more money. Benchmark. I think all of us will be familiar with this, especially if you are an average student or a poor student, because you would have been benchmarked against the top 3 people in the class, saying that why don't you be like her or be like him, when will you improve, etc. So mutual funds also, poor things have benchmarks. Okay, a benchmark is a standard against which the performance of a mutual fund can be measured. And benchmark indexes have been created across all types of asset classes and securities. So for different types of mutual funds, there is a benchmark. For gold, there is benchmark. For commodities, there is benchmark. So everything has a benchmark, so that we can easily understand performance of that asset class or a security. Let's look at the most famous one in India, the BSE Sensex, the Bombay Stock Exchange Sensex. This is the stock market index. How does it work? They have taken 30 well-established and financially sound companies which are listed on Bombay Stock Exchange and which are representative of various industrial sectors of the Indian economy. So the share price of these 30 companies is taken in different weightages and according to some calculation, some algorithm, but this is representative of the stock market. The BSE Sensex values have been published since 1st January 1986. They took the base value of the Sensex as 100 as on 1st April 1979, and they have been calculating the Sensex value from then on. So right now you can see from 100 it had gone to 40,000, now it's around 32,000. So you can see how the stock market has moved. I mean, it gives a pulse of the domestic stock markets in India. These are the companies which are representing the Bombay Stock Exchange Sensex right now, right? You can see there's paints, there's financial service, there's auto, telecom, IT, construction, FMCG, oil, there's manufacturing, etc. So like I mentioned earlier, it is quite representative of the Indian economy at this time. Similar to this, there are other benchmarks which are used. Okay, a few examples are given here, and each of these benchmarks can be used by a mutual fund to show the performance of its fund. Okay, so as I mentioned, what is a benchmark? Like, you are able to evaluate a mutual fund by comparing its performance against a benchmark return. Example, a fund returned 14% in a particular period. Is this good or bad? We don't know. But if you have a benchmark against which you can see, and now you know that the benchmark return was 10%, then the fund has overperformed compared to the benchmark. It's also useful when a new fund is going to be launched. So you don't know how the fund is going to perform, but you can get a rough idea by the benchmark which it has been assigned with. This would give you a rough idea. Okay. It's also important to look at the category average performance. Benchmark is one, but you also need to look at the relative performance of a mutual fund. Now, what happens in mutual funds is that they are categorized according to their objective. So you have large cap, which is only investing in top 100 companies, or there are liquid funds, very, very safe investments which are done, right? So they are categorized. And in a particular category, the mutual fund has to adhere to the same regulations which are given by the SEBI. That is, a large cap fund cannot go and invest in a mid cap or a small cap stock. A liquid fund cannot buy equity, it has to lend it forward. Now, the category average will take into account the performance of all the funds in a particular category. So, you can compare a fund with its category average performance to understand the related performance, right? Let's just look at an example here. So you have a fund here, okay, which has different types of, I mean, they've given different returns as per the time period. So you have the fund, you have its benchmark, which is the BSE 100 TRI, and the category is the equity large cap. So let's look at the last column where it's written 10Y or 10 years. In the 10-year returns period, it has delivered 9.95% year on year. Is this good or bad? Let's compare it with its benchmark. Pretty good. It's giving almost 3% higher than the benchmark year on year, right? And compared to its category, the average is 7, whereas you're getting 3% higher. So you have a definite winner here. Even if you look at the 1 year or the 6-month period, you can see that it is outperforming its category as well as its benchmark. So this could be definitely a good way to assess the fund and whether you should invest in it. However, past returns do not guarantee future returns. So please do a more in-depth study into this. The next concept we look at is the compound annual growth rate, or CAGR. Now we know that mutual funds, unlike fixed deposits, do not grow at the same rate at all periods of time. If you're following the market right now, you know that most mutual funds are delivering negative returns right now. But there is a time when it will become positive, or there is a time when it is positive. So how do you determine that? What is the rate of growth? This is where the CAGR comes in. CAGR can be used to smoothen out returns, to show a smooth return, and it can we used to make comparison easy between alternative investments. So you have not just fixed deposits, but you have gold, you have commodities or property. You want to understand what is the rate of return that you're getting, then you can use the CAGR, right? And what do you require for this? CAGR is the rate of return that would be required for an investment to grow from its beginning balance to its ending balance, right? From its beginning balance to its ending balance, assuming the profits were reinvested at the end of each year of the investment's lifespan. Okay, so you have a beginning amount, you have an end amount, and you're assuming that you didn't take out any money at this point of time, but it was reinvested, and that is what you need to to calculate the CAGR. You have calculators on the net, you can easily find it. It's quite simple and you can calculate it. Let me just give you an example to understand this better. Once again, I'll compare it with the fixed deposit. You take a fixed deposit, you're going to make a 10,000 rupee investment for a period of 3 years. The bank tells you that 6% is your rate of interest that you'll earn on this. So on April 2017, you deposited 10,000. Now, after the first year, your investment grew to 10,600, right? 6% on 10,000 for 1 year. You got 600. But did you take the money out? No. You've left it there. You've told the bank that you can reinvest the interest. So they reinvested. Now on 10,600, again you earned 6%. So you got 11,236. And on 11,236, you got 6% for the last year. It came to 11,910. Right? Simple. In a mutual fund, what happens? Same 3-year period, same amount you invested 10,000, but it did not grow at a steady pace. In the first year, it went down 9,500. Next year, it went up, but by 500 rupees. And in the last year, it went up rapidly to 12,500. What is the rate of return here? Right? This is where the CAGR comes in. You go onto the net, you open a calculator, you put in these amounts. You say that, my starting balance was 10,000 rupees, my ending balance was 12,500. It took me 3 years to grow, and it will show you that the rate of interest is 7.72% per annum. Right? Now you can compare. Has a mutual fund done better than the fixed deposit? Yes, it has. Did you take a risk while doing this? Yes, you did, because in between your 10,000 went down to 9,500. But it is as if it grew, because you waited for 3 years and you got 12,500. It is as if it grew at 7.72%. So it grew from 10,000 to 12,500 as if. So how can an investor use the CAGR? You can use it to evaluate the past returns or estimate the future profits. So taking the same example as earlier, when you look at the returns of a mutual fund, you know that if you had put it in for a 10-year period, you would have got 9.95% at this point of time, right? If you put it for 3 years, you would have got 8.71. So this is a past return that you're using. So you would like to conclude that you could earn future profits at something of this rate, because you also have a category average, you have the benchmark. So all these things you can put together to understand the returns better of a mutual fund. So just to summarize the concepts that we learned, the riskometer is a pictorial depiction, easily assess the level of risk associated with the principal you are investing in a mutual fund. Every scheme is classified as open-ended or close-ended based on the maturity period. Close-ended funds are for mature investors. The net asset value tells you the value of the unit that the mutual fund is issuing. Per unit, what is the market value of a mutual fund unit? You can use a benchmark to understand the performance of a mutual fund. You should also use a category of average performance. And the CAGR is very useful because it tells you how an investment grew from the beginning balance to the ending balance, because mutual funds do not give returns at a steady rate. It fluctuates up and down. So use the CAGR to do this. So I hope I was able to explain these concepts to you clearly. These are slightly complex and it's not easy, but once you go through it and then you start your investments, you'll get a better hang of it. If you have any queries, please do reach out to me on my contact points, or you can leave it in the comment section below and I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next episode.